to get the YouTube started here. Live stream, high tech. Okay. And I'm just gonna disable our waiting room. All right, welcome to our final session of the Buyer Supplier Mixer, day 1. Where we will be discussing inspiring connections across the local food system. And before we get started with the session, we're just going to share a few quick slides on some accessibility features that we have for the session. And I'll turn it over to Letty.
Thank you. Muy buenas tardes a todos. Ya estamos finalmente en la última sesión del día número 1. Para tener acceso a la interpretación en Zoom, tenemos que tocar la pantalla. Va a aparecer el icono del globito. Va a elegir interpretación de idiomas disponibles. O si no prefieren, simplemente desactivar la función. Ahora, si quieren también, tenemos los servicios de sustitutos en inglés. Puede ingresar en esta sesión, va a ver la notificación de servicios y que va a estar disponible. Va a escoger el icono y escoger para mostrar los sustitutos. Ahora vamos a estar aquí, puede modificar la configuración y vamos a estar aquí. Bienvenidos todos a su última sesión del día número 1. Mi colega Leticia y yo vamos a estar disponibles para la interpretación. Nos vemos en el otro canal de español. Gracias y bienvenidos. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And just quickly in English, we have closed captioning. So if you would like English subtitles, you can click on the CC at the bottom of your screen and access subtitles. We also have ASL interpreters joining us for the session as well. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Bahati Eme to kick things off for this final panel.
Yes, of course. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Marley. My name is Bahati Eme, and I am joining everyone from the Community Food Navigator. I am the project manager and community steward on the project. I'm glad to see some team members here, so thank you for joining us. Also, lots of gratitude to the CIFPAC team who have organized this, and also to Eliana, who has helped in terms of coordination and getting our wonderful panels who will have a chance to introduce themselves in a bit, organized and getting this panel together. So a little bit of background on the Community Food Navigator project. So the project is a collaborative space that seeks to co-create digital and in-person spaces where people, communities, and organizations are able to connect and organize based on a shared interest in community-driven food and community-driven food solutions. And so I'm excited today because we have a number of people who do a lot of that work, whether that be in neighborhood markets, whether their growers are scaling in different ways or diversifying their businesses in order to support the work that they're doing in a values-driven way. The project is really seeking to strengthen the connections amongst people doing community food work, amongst growers specifically doing that work within communities in Chicago, engaging people, and then also telling stories about what's happening in order to change the dominant narrative about food systems and food work. So today's conversation with CIFPAC, we're really drawing into, when we're thinking about some of the strategic objectives that were shared earlier by Marley during the presentation, really thinking about how to support equitable supply chain development. And that supply chain development that is inclusive of institutional supply chains, but also neighborhood-driven, community-driven supply chain development within community-driven food systems. So for the Community Food Navigator, we're really focused on how is community getting food to each other, how are growers supporting the supply of that food, and how can we begin to tell nuanced stories about the work that's happening and the abundance that exists within place in Chicago. And as Eliana just shared in the chat, please feel free to submit questions, reflections as we're going through. She will be monitoring the chat And then we'll also have some time in the end to open space for our panelists to answer some of those questions. So with that being said, the Navigator is, I will share that in a bit, has been working with our wonderful stewards like Pastor Shorna, Clarence Smith, and then also Deshaun, who is one of our seed starters, as we're launching an app that is in development right now in a closed environment to do exactly the work of strengthening connections amongst growers. So the digital tool is focused on enabling increased visibility and connection amongst growers and those in support of the work to feed local communities. So Clarence has been part of the technology pod that has been informing the different features and functions within that digital tool. Pastor Shorna has been part of the stewardship ring that has been informing how the project sets priorities and is community driven in the ways that it does its work. And then of course, we have been working alongside folks like Alex Franz, who have been in the system for a long time and are really looking towards how organizations such as Midwest Foods can be in more partnership with growers and be supportive as we're thinking about different models of food access. So that being said, I would like to invite our panelists to share a bit about themselves. It would be great to hear an introduction, a bit about your work, and then also what has brought you here today. So we can start with Pastor Shorna.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am just excited to be here. I'm always happy to talk about the work that we do in the community, particularly when we talk about accessing food to people who have not been able to have good, healthy food. And so, again, I'm Pastor Rashon Fitzpatrick. I'm the executive pastor of the historic Stone Temple Church in North Lawndale. The work that we do is we have maybe 13 food gardens that we supply food to people in the community. We have a love fridge, and we put our produce in the fridge and anyone can come by and get it. Not only do we put our food in there, but also other people in the community who may have access. They bring it there and it's for all the community. So when you talk about food access, that just really gets me going because we have lots of partners who help in that. And I'll leave it right there because I'm excited about just having this conversation. So thank you for allowing me to share.
Bahati,
I think you're on mute.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Alex, I was calling you out. I was saying, would you please share a little bit more about your work and your work at Midwest Foods?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Also really excited to be here and be in conversation with everyone. My name's Alex. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the director of local and sustainability at Midwest Foods. Midwest is a woman-owned regional produce distributor that works with a lot of institutions like colleges, universities, hospitals, and also some more unique ones like stadiums and the airport and things like that. So they have had a dedicated local sourcing program, but we do source nationally and internationally to serve chefs at those types of accounts year round. So there's been a lot of demand for local on the institution side, really driven by things like the Good Food Purchasing Policy. And so it's been really exciting to see that demand continue to grow. But the role that we sort of play is how do we get that done in a way that kind of addresses some of the power dynamics and imbalances that can occur in the supply chain with respect to growers working with institutions and the opportunity that there is to scale businesses, but also the challenges that come with working with that system while also trying to reimagine how we can transform it to be more equitable. And so I am very excited to speak with everyone here today and to have Clarence and Deshaun with here as well to talk about sort of the partnership that we have been working on and how that's looked for them and how it's worked and also feedback for how we continue to work on it together to make it work for them and for us. So appreciate the space today.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. that is a natural transition to Clarence and your team with Deshaun. Can you share a little bit more about your work?
Yes, I'm Clarence Smith, the owner of One Family Farms. We're located at 4431 South Federal on a quarter acre right now. We have 10 acres in Pembroke, and Deshaun and I, with a collaborative, just went in and got 20 acres in Chicago Heights. So one of our main things, was kind of scaling up from just a community farming to doing farming on a larger scale, and the relationship we have with Midwest from when we're doing stuff by case to scaling up to give more people jobs. One of my heart's desires is to strengthen families one seed at a time. And so in order to do that, we needed to hire more labor, get certified, get GAP certified, and go through all these hurdles that we didn't know was there. But we're thankful for the relationship with Midwest Foods and Community Food Navigator and other people in different communities that has kind of set the scale and set the bar so we can scale up. And so that's just a little bit about Clarence and One Family Farms.
Thank you, Clarence. Deshaun, can you tell us a little bit more?
Hi, guys. Absolutely. My name is Rashon Willingham. I'm the owner and operator of Chicago Urban Farm Solutions. We work out of the same space where Clarence works out of. It's an incubator situation there. So I also control a quarter acre. And Clarence and I have partnered on many different projects together. So they're like CSAs who have expanded their CSA subscriptions, and they don't have the land or access to the work, the staff to actually produce the amount of food that they need in order to continue to expand. And we've been able to work collaboratively to help address some of those issues. That was like one of the main things that I wanted to do with my farm business, is to facilitate the growth of the CSA models, but not actually control a CSA model business myself. I'm not a great people person. I know that there are others who have who are a lot better at that than I am. So I feel like there's a different role for me to play, and if it all contributes to strengthening the food system, the local food system, that's something that I wanted to do. Clarence just spoke about the land that we have in Pembroke, and also the 20 acres that we've been able to acquire, and we're in the process actually of that right now. That was in part due to our relationship with Windy City Harvest, who through them facilitated a meeting with us with the Farm Conservation Fund, which is it's an arm of the USDA, really. So they're throwing a lot of money right now trying to address some systemic injustices from the past, which is a good thing. So we'll take it. And yeah, looking forward to the conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I appreciate you all kind of sharing a bit about your organization and your mission, as you all are definitely addressing the need for creating more access and reducing barriers in terms of access to fresh foods within Chicago. And then also expanding in terms of thinking about the different kinds of business models that exist and how those need to be supported with an infrastructure that is thoughtful and intentional to the needs of the growers and the people doing the work on the ground. So today we have an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper in how community and growers are already doing this work. And therefore the policies and the systems that exist have also to shift in order to not only track the economic benefit of all of this, but also the value-based needs for food sovereignty, food choice, circularity, and sustainability within community. And so I'm wondering, in the last couple of years, or as you have been doing this work within your role, how have you seen the needs shift in terms of communities asking for a certain type of relationship with their food, and therefore demanding a kind of shift within the work that you do, whether that's with how you provide that food past Rishona, meeting people where they're at in neighborhood markets, you know, with the love fridges, partnering with organization like 40 Acres. How has that gone for you, and what have you been learning recently about the way that you do the work?
Well, it's really refreshing to know that those relationships have built over the last couple of years. What I see is once you start a train going, people are going to get on and help. And I've seen it over these 2 years. We've got many partners, Urban Growers Collective, 40 Acres, Jawan McCarthy from Fight to Feed. She provides us food. And I feel like the more we grow in our community, the more there is a need. I feel like people didn't really realize what they were really missing, or sad to say that they were entitled to all this good, healthy food. And so we found a way to put together, I'm the chairperson for the Girls Committee for North Lawndale Community Coordinating Council, and I'm a member of the North Lawndale Greening Committee. So we all got together and applied for a grant from the American Heart Association, got the grant, and was able to really create this synergy around these gardens, the people in the community. So here's what we did. We engaged the people in the community. We empowered them, we enrolled them, and we were able to really provide some education to intergenerational. So it wasn't just one age group, it was the children, it's the adults. We were able to, even from UI Health, get grow bags. So we gave grow bags to families. Like, this is your start. You got a tomato here, just watch it grow and let us know what's happening. And so we did that for about 25 families, and people wanted more. One of the things that made me so happy, one day I was driving through the neighborhood and I saw a woman, she had her tomato grow back on the porch. I was ecstatic because it's like, oh my God, they are really using them. Not that I didn't doubt them, but this was on the front porch, because one of the things you said, you could put this anywhere. You can move it in the sun. It's so easy. It's a 5-gallon bag and your tomatoes will grow here. And so I've seen that. Another thing we do is every Monday, we have what we call sustenance for the soul. So we cook and we feed the community of about 200 people. And that same day, Urban Growers Collectives brings their food truck, that bus where they have all of their fresh vegetables, right? And people were able to hop on the bus and get $10 worth of vegetables for free, right? So we got food, we got free vegetables. We have, with a mutual aid society that we're connected with, we have 200 bag lunches, we have books. So it's turned into just a community of engagement. And so even the community, sometimes you can't really decipher if a person is there to receive or they're just there as a volunteer, because everybody helps out. So it's really creating a sense of community, and everybody is there helping and being helped. So that's really exciting. For Urban Growers Collective, they bring food, and there are times when they bring boxes of food. For 40 Acres, they bring boxes or bags of food that people can take home and cook. The next thing we are doing is actually some of the vegetables people may not be familiar with, right? So we're going to do cooking demonstrations, because with the grant, we were able to remodel our kitchen and make it a commercial kitchen. So people will be able to get their sanitation license, cook in the kitchen, create value-added products. So when I say I'm excited about this, I see people being healthier. I see people being in better relationships. I see intergenerational relationships developing in that community. And it's just a spark of joy to, and we only do it one day a week where we actually are out front barbecuing, cooking, but food is given just about every day.
Yeah, thank you. That was a really great, you painted a really great picture of the kind of ecosystem that is built as sparked by food. So it begins with food, but also you begin to understand that folks are working on this to create community, social ties, cultural, preservation, to save some of the cultural practices or even share those with others. And those are some of the really critical, intentional things that happen when you're building relationships that are a bit more intentional than transactional. And so that's what I really appreciate when we're thinking about equitable supply chain development, right? It's really being able to meet folks where they're at and understanding the reasons why they're doing the work beyond just, being able to supply a certain yield of food, but really being able to create that kind of value beyond the organization or the groups that they're working with.
And I might
so that kind of
I might add this too. It's really, for me, it's the community unity, it's the connections that you are developing. And each week, we've been doing this for 2 years now. And there's always someone coming up saying, can I join you guys? Can I bring what I have and just build? So it's been building. We have open books there. They're giving away books. I mean, there's some woman comes and she gives away brand new clothing. So it has created a sense of community, which we didn't think about how grand this was going to be. And I forgot to tell you guys. And then there's always good music. Like Bahati plays really good music. There's always good music too.
Always good music. Music is a must. It's a must. Yes, that brings me then also to Alex, the work that you're doing at Midwest Foods to really kind of understand what that partnership can look like, and the work that you've done with One Family Farms, Deshaun with Chicago Urban Farming Solutions, and Clarence, in terms of kind of understanding, how do you support a grower in the ways that they're trying to diversify their business, but also trying to remain mission oriented in terms of providing, price consciousness in different neighborhoods, but also having somebody who's such a great partner and is able to support with some of the technical assistance that it takes to be able to supply with an institutional supplier like Midwest Foods. So it would be helpful to know kind of what that looks like in your world and what it has taken to kind of develop that relationship with your partners.
Yeah, it's, I appreciated, there's a lot of imagery in what Pastor Rashorna shared, and I really appreciated that. I like feel like the warmth of the community just from the way you're speaking about it. So I think when you said, when it was said about ecosystem, like it really did make me think about the ecosystem and all the different things that are coming together to drive community. And I was reflecting on sort of like from our perspective, it's a couple different types of community in terms of the community of growers that we're working with, both urban growers and rural growers, and sort of those communities that can often be really disconnected. Then also like the community of chefs, like food service folks, people who are working in cafeterias at different types of institutions, and how, what they're thinking about, what their company cultures are like, how they're incentivized around pricing or penalized around pricing, things like that. And then the communities that those institutions are actually serving, right? So maybe a community that comes together in sort of a unique way, like a university where everyone comes together for maybe 4 years and then kind of goes out into the world, right? Or there's more, long-term anchors like a hospital that's going to serve a community where maybe people are coming from further away, but also there's kind of a long-standing relationship with the immediate community around a hospital. And so like as a distributor, as a connector, I'm sort of, I've really seen like, there's just, we're kind of connecting, and that's sort of my role too. Like I'm not the direct buyer and I'm not on our sales team. We're sort of facilitating the, listening to the needs on both sides and then trying to create that connection to come together and make it work for everyone. So one of the things that, and I would maybe pass this to Clarence and Deshaun to speak to, was sort of the way that we approached the relationship. Midwest Foods had a long-standing relationship with Windy City Harvest, and that was really sort of a unique approach to being a wholesale partner in a way that supported Windy City being able to operate their neighborhood farm stands at reduced prices, and also the Veggie RX program. And then doing wholesale, kind of everything else, being able to kind of cultivate those skills around food safety, cold storage, pack sizes, specs, like sort of, so in their grower training programs, getting that firsthand experience selling to a wholesaler through that program, and then being able to, as sort of Clarence and Deshawn have, like, you know, continued to work with Windy City, and then also, you know, branch out into their own farms with their own missions and focuses on what they want to prioritize for their farm businesses, and kind of have that existing relationship coincidentally with us, but also having, you know, kind of that training in that context. And I think that's something that I hope Midwest Foods, as we continue to operate sort of within this system, can kind of pull out the transparency and like just make it, you know, that can sort of be at the root of some of the power dynamics that really challenge folks, and sort of the, you know, systemic inequalities that are really like rooted all throughout this system, that, you know, are put growers at a disadvantage, and in terms of pricing and the sustainability of their businesses and the ability to scale in a way that is the way that they want to scale. So I think we're really trying to balance the needs that we hear from the community served by the institutions themselves that say that they want something, but then how can we really approach things to create more values-based relationships so that there's follow through, there's more dialogue and conversation, so that it's not just that simple transaction that kind of loses not only the storytelling, but also can really reinforce a lot of those power dynamics that are just that don't work for all of us long term. So I didn't get into too many specifics with how it's been with Clarence and Deshawn, but that's why I was really excited that they were able to join the panel today as well, because I wanted them to speak to what the experience has been like in trying to in working together with us.
Absolutely. So it's been a great experience working with Midwest Foods. Midwest has been like the foundation really of the incubator program that Windy City Harvest facilitates and that we went through, which is our foundation as well. The relationship with Midwest has been crucial in a number of ways. Number one is a financial foundation for us. We sell a lot of produce to Midwest Foods. They buy a lot from us, relatively speaking, as local growers, you know. That then allows us to go out and do some other things that we care about, like being able to do, like today, we're going to do later on today, we're going to do a farm stand for a mixed income development, where we're going to be offering produce at some drastically reduced prices. And we're able to do that because of the relationship that we have with Midwest Foods that, again, has allowed us the financial foundation that we have. So these are the things that are important to us. And this relationship is really important to us in that way. Also, the other thing I would say is that knowing that we could sell directly to Midwest Foods and not only through Windy City Harvest, which is how the program works, and that we needed to get a GAP certification in order to do that is kind of what propelled us to do the GAP, go through the process to get the GAP certification, which now allows us to sell to other larger institutions. And it's a pathway to scaling up, which we're doing right now. So, it's a natural progression, but, and also Midwest Foods is kind of preparing us for what's to come. They're showing us what the standards are, and yeah, definitely that. And so that helps us in our growth and to grow into what we need to be in order to go out and get other contracts and to be able to expand what we're trying to do. And we can talk more about our model and what we want to do later on, but I just wanted to kind of focus on how important this relationship with Midwest Foods has been.
Awesome. Thank you, Deshawn. Clarence, I see you off mute, and then Pastor Rashorna, I'm curious to know if you have any thoughts as well.
For me, the relationship has been awesome from us getting our GAP certification, and the program kind of prepared us for pre-harvest and post-harvesting skills, but knowing like if something is going to a college, something that may be going to a high-end restaurant, how to pack things out, all those things were important. But one of the most important things from having a transactional relationship with money going into a straight community relationship where we can go behind the doors at Midwest and learn the very sellers that they sell to, the direct buyers, the consumers, and it will help us scale up because we got a kind of a bird's eye view of what each buyer was looking for, how they wanted it, what time of the year they wanted it. Those are all things that farms must know, so you know how to kind of base your crop plan. Because if everybody is doing the same crop, but you might have another buyer that wants, instead of just a big beef tomato, they may want a Martha Washington tomato. So all that stuff helps and prepare you so you can scale up. Because if you're the only one to have Martha Washingtons and Midwest wants 50 or 100 crates of Martha Washingtons, hey, you're winning because you already know what they want and you know exactly how they want it done. So all those relationals and those relationships are great. And I'll end with this. Selling wholesale to Midwest has allowed us to give, like at Veggie RX markets that we go to. I do 3 farmers markets a week in Black and brown communities, and I sell chemical-free, great quality produce at $1 a bunch. We don't even go above $1. So that's the relationship with Midwest was so awesome. It allowed us to kind of balance the scales and then have people that can support you with your vision and mission. And then you have another person like a Deshaun that I can collaborate with and say, hey, how about this? What about this? And what about that? Those things are so important. So you can piggyback off somebody that has that experience and has the same drive. And you can pick up a phone call and talk to people at Midwest and say, hey, we might have an extra 300 bunches of collard greens. Do you have a buyer that may be interested besides the other wholesale we were doing? So those relationships are very vital and important.
Mm-hmm. What I really appreciate about both Pastor Rashorna's share and the 3 of y'all's is that it really takes a village, and the village looks differently, but it really takes this kind of intentional partnership and mentorship on both sides in that, you know, this is how operationally the system works. These are the operational practices that are required from the perspective of when we are buying the produce from you and supplying it to a high-end restaurant or to a school, or these are the expectations, and therefore, how can we partner with you to kind of understand if that's a direction that you want to be going in, and if that is, then there's a whole lot to learn there. And then vice versa, Alex, what I really liked about what you said is there's a whole lot to unpack when we're thinking about equity and justice within this work of GFPI or within this work of supply chain development, right? There's a whole lot to unpack and dismantle about power and role within these systems, right? And so in Pastor Rashorna, understanding that there's so many different models of how people access food, and there is also many preferences. And so how do we make sure that residents, eaters, and the folks that are doing this work, organizers, have a choice in how they do that work and how they access food? So really appreciate all of those shares. Pastor Rashorna, I'm wondering what's on your mind.
So I just want to give a big shout out to Alex and Midwest Foods for how they are really captivating how important it is to support local farmers. That's a big shout out. We have been for the last 2 years, so Clarence, we're a little behind you guys, but for the last 2 years, we have been growing and selling only in farmers markets to the people in the community. And again, we have a relationship with lots of other growers. And so sometimes we may fall short. We'll call Urban Growers Collective. We'll call 40 acres, and then we will be able to have a supply of vegetables to put into the community. So yeah, I'm excited to know that there is a Midwest Foods that, you know, really is in position to help move growers forward and suppliers forward. And who knows, I might be giving you a call in a year or so. It's like, hey, we're ready. We're just putting together this team of community members, and we have Erica Allen, we have Angela Taylor, and all of these people are in community food navigator system. So that's going to open up a big open window for us to really move forward and to really get a handle on what we've been missing for decades, I should say. And in that, people will begin to believe that they deserve better food.
Yes, thank you. So we have about 6 or so more minutes. And there are 2 things that I really want to land in those 6 minutes. I have one more question for you all. And also earlier I had mentioned how the Community Food Navigator is developing a digital tool, co-creating it with folks like Clarence, Deshawn, Pastor Rashorna. And in the coming months, we're really trying to understand how there's been a whole lot of energy coming around, a conversation like the one that we're having today and the ones that we'll be having on Monday. But how can a tool be able to extend those conversations a little bit further so that we're all kind of holding each other accountable, and we're also learning in a space that feels as though it's action oriented, that is oriented towards, we're learning things. And so how do we activate and manifest those things so that we are supporting communities in the different ways that they would like to be supported, in the different ways that they would like to have choice. And so I'm really excited to continue from the project's perspective to give folks updates, and you can visit our website at communityfoodnavigator.org to learn a little bit more about that. And the last question that I had for you all is, what is something that you might ask the audience to support and become engaged in after today's conversation and Monday's conversation?
Mm-hmm. I can go first. I will ask that those on the call, those who are interested in this, could really help us get water access to water. That is something that in the community, it's a little challenging. Although we have AUA, they do a great job, but there are many backyard gardens or community gardens that are not close to a fire hydrant, and it's a hard way to get water there. So that is one of the things I would ask for those who are available, if they could just kind of lend some help in that area. What can we do to move that needle closer to making water accessible? In addition to that, it's still a water issue. A water spigot costs an arm and a leg. And it's like, so we have to figure out how to, if we're growing food for our community, then we're making healthier communities. Everyone who is available should be able to assist in getting a spigot on a farmland, getting a spigot on a garden where it's not so expensive that you come away feeling like, was it worth it? Because now I spent all this money and I can't really buy the soil I need or the seeds I need. So that's one of the things that I'm really concerned about at this time.
Thank you, Pastor Rashorna. Deshawn.
I'm sorry, this is Clarence. One of the things I would ask everybody that's watching us and participating is to make sure that we break down all barriers. Because when we sit down and eat at the table, I don't care what background, what ethnic background, what color you are, food is going to be the same. Mm-hmm. And so for us to stop breaking each other, when I say break down the barriers, make sure we help each other grow and make sure we help support each other, no matter what part of the food spectrum in, if you're selling it, growing it, cooking it, that we all come together as a collective, because I believe there's so much strength in numbers and uniformity in numbers that, as Pastor Rashonda said, when they got together and put a team together, they were able to access capital or a grant. But I believe that so many of us are doing great things, but if we don't come together as a collective, then we'll never see the full totality of each other's visions. But I believe we can support each other, and no matter what each organization is doing.
Yeah, I'll just have to echo what Clarence just said. He kind of stole my thought. And it's kind of been the story of our existence together, Clarence and I. We kind of mirrored each other in everything that we've done. So we decided together to do the apprenticeship program with Windy City Harvest, and then decided that we'd take on a farm business on our own too. And from the beginning, we decided that we were going to work together and try to do some things together, because there are strength in numbers. And when you bring things together, it's just more of an opportunity to reach more people. So that's something I'm big on. I want to get fresh, healthy produce into the hands of as many people as possible, especially people who are living in situations where they're underprivileged and don't have access to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can better do that together than each one of us on our own. And I think something like the Navigator, that's the thing that will help facilitate some of those things happen.
Absolutely.
Alex, is there anything on your mind? Maybe
I really appreciate everyone's thoughts. I was like, this feels really, it's just standing out so much, the idea of coming together. And I feel like the Navigator, that's it, right? That's the facilitation of bringing all of these points that can be really disconnected to be in together. When Pastor Rashorna was mentioning the Fresh Moves Market, visiting their events, that's a relationship that I think, like, we also partner with Urban Growers Collective to buy from them, but then they also buy other types of produce items that can't be produced locally from us that are on the Fresh Moves Market that are affordable and what people want to see, culturally relevant, nourishing, you know. And so, like, I think there's a lot of opportunities for you know, that circularity, like these reciprocal relationships, and that also builds more trust, more relationship, where it's less transactional because we need each other and we're working together in unique ways. I would say to everyone here that's gathering that it's, you know, continue to push for what you need. And I think and whether that's from a community perspective, whether that's the perspective of growers, you know, in the conversations that Clarence and Deshawn were having with the Conservation Fund about accessing land, the Conservation Fund approached Midwest about our buying relationship as a component of their business plan. And it was a great opportunity for us to then look at the way we do MOUs, the way we do contracts in a way that better serves growers to be able to leverage that for access opportunities, capital, etc. So, like, continuing to kind of just make these connections and have these conversations allows us to sort of push against the way things are set up and really innovate the way we can come together as a collective and really, you know, I mean, we're a produce distributor, like we're not directly serving the community every day, but like knowing that the way that we can work with growers has these, you know, ripple effects, like it is all interconnected at the end of the day. And that makes me really excited to be working in local food for that reason, because it all comes together. So, but we can't do it without each other, is how I feel about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. Thank you to everybody. We are at time. And Alex, you were just getting to what Deepa would say, the brass tacks of the conversation, right? Like, what do those MOUs look like? How do we structure those contracts and agreements in ways that are in benefit to the work of community members and the work of growers on the ground, right? And so we don't have enough time to get into that, but that's definitely a conversation that needs to be had. And we're excited to see what can happen in the next coming months because of an organized event like this that really pushes this work a little bit further towards good food purchasing. So with that, I will turn the mic back to Dakari and team, and thank you to Pastor Rashorna, Deshawn, Clarence, Alex, Eliana, Sydney for your support in putting together this panel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Big thank you. Thanks to everybody who was able to join this session. Thank you for all the panelists that were able to contribute their experiences to how we really promote food accessibility, mobility, and the work that we're doing on the ground. So I can't thank folks enough for contributing to this event. I will share screen really quickly just to wrap us up. And thank you, and gracias, for everybody who was able to join in. It's not over yet. We still have Monday available for the in-person event. If you have not registered, please register. It's going to be a day of, again, food and fellowship, and it's going to be part 2 of this. I know a lot of etiquette via Zoom prohibits us from having those sidebar conversations that are so necessary and essential to connectivity and building. But Monday, we're going to try to bypass that at the experimental station from about 10 o'clock to 5 p.m. So a couple of tips for Monday if you plan on attending. Sharing your story, growers and food producers. Just come prepared to speak to your mission, your visions, and your values, operational sizes, food safety procedures, product availability, current delivery channels, alignment with some of the values that we've spoken about in the good food purchasing policy. And also just sharing your stories for any of the buyers. And when we say buyers, we mean the chefs and food preparers. One, just considering the daily meals, the kitchen capabilities that you all are having, the average time to pay after the invoice is received, delivery schedule, items of interest, potential and current future entry points. And just some additional questions for you to consider going forward. Does a grower or buyer serve your community or a population that's important for your mission and vision and values? How would your farm or food biz be promoted or part of education or part of educational efforts? If it's not possible now, what can make that possible? And beyond sales, what are other ways that you can work together for mutual benefit? So I'll pass it over to Laura to talk a little bit about the evaluation, or Jessica, maybe. I can't see who's in the chat. But please remember to take the survey if it's being launched. Yep. So Marley included within our chat the link to the survey, just so we could have some evaluation and know what's working and how we could better curate these events going forward for the next one. So much appreciation to everybody who came out today. Much appreciation to the staff and everybody else who contributes to like the planning process, everything else. Hoping that we are able to see everybody on Monday and come back. Thanks.